Okay, we are going to now be continuing with chapter 9, lesson 5. So let's go ahead and start with our share and show. Um, let's go ahead and shade our fraction strips to show these three fractions, 4/6, 4/4, and 4/8 from the, so that we can figure out which one is the biggest and which one's the smallest. Okay, so we have, here's our one big piece. And if we were to cut these into 6, these into 4ths, and these into 8ths, this is what it would look like. So let's go ahead and shade these in. So we have 4/6. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to shade those ones in. Okay. What about 4/4? 4/4, remember, if the numerator and the denominator are the same, that means that it's going to be the whole piece. So I'm going to color in all of these, okay? And then 4/8. I'm going to start from 0 and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and there's 4/8. So which one is the shortest? We can see that 4/8 is the shortest, okay? And then we can see that 4/4 is our longest piece, okay? Is our longest one. Now, which one is the in between? In between is our 4/6, the 6 pieces. So 4/6. Okay, so if we were to write these out all in a line from least to greatest, then we would go 4/8, 4/6, because that one's our between, and 4/4. Okay, and those are our fractions written from least to greatest, right? So let's go ahead and look at these ones. Okay, now these ones, they all have the same denominator. So what do we do when they have the same denominator? All we need to do when they have the same denominator is look at the top number, our numerator, and which one is the biggest number and which one is the smallest number. So since I know that these are all going to be cut into 2 pieces, is 0 bigger or smaller than 1 or 2? It's smaller, right? So here I can write 0/2 because that's going to be our smallest one. Okay, now which one is going to be our one that's in between? What's the biggest number? Instead of thinking about the in between first, we could look at the first one, the smallest number, and the biggest number. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write the one that I know is the biggest. So I'm going to go 2/2 here. Okay, 2/2 because I know that 2 is bigger than 1 or 0. And then that only leaves one last spot where our 1/2 is going to go. Okay. All right. Now let's look at number 3. All of these have different denominators. Different denominators mean that the more that you cut something into pieces, then the smaller it's going to be. So that means that it's going to be kind of opposite from what we do when we look at the ones that have the same denominator. So let's go ahead and just take a look over at our fraction strips just to be sure that we know exactly what we're doing. Okay, so if we look at this, and the first one they give us is 1/6. So I'm going to color in 1/6 here. And then I'm going to color in 1/2. And then 1/3. Now you don't have to do this every time. If you remember that if there are different denominators, then the more that you cut something up, the smaller pieces you're going to get, then you don't need to use these fraction strips. But if it helps you to visualize it, sometimes it helps me, then that's fine too. So how do I do this from least to greatest? Well, I know that if we cut something into 6 pieces, those pieces are going to be a lot smaller than if I cut it in half or into thirds. So my smallest one is going to be 1/6. Okay, there's my smallest. And then if I look again, then I can see that my 1/3 is the one that's in the middle. And then my 1/2 is the largest piece. So those are our 3 fractions written from least to greatest. Okay. All right, let's erase this in case we want to use it again. Let's go and try these. So just like before, these 6, 6, 6, all my denominators are the same. So all I need to do is put them in order from the smallest, or this one we're doing backwards, greatest to least. So we're going to go from biggest to smallest. So which one is the biggest? Is 6 a bigger number, 2, or 5? We know that 6 is our bigger than 2 or 5, so that's going to be our greatest. So I'm going to write 6 over 6 here. Now which one's in the middle? 2, is 2 closer to 6, or is 5 closer to 6? 5 is definitely closer to 6. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write 5, 6, because that's our one in the middle. And then our smallest piece is going to be the one with the smallest numerator, so 2 over 6. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at number 5. This one's going to be just like we did with this one up above. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my fraction sheet because it helps me. And I'm going to just color these in real quick. So 1 over 8. I'm remembering that the higher this number on the bottom, that denominator, the smaller pieces it's going to be. So here's my 1 over 8. Here's my 1 over 4. Here's my 1/2. Okay, and then after I do that, I can easily see that if we're writing from greatest to least, remember that we're doing greatest to least, then my biggest one is going to be my 1/2. Okay, my middle piece is going to be my 1/4. And then my smallest piece, my least piece, is going to be, 1/8. Okay, so there's my fractions. All right, now this one's going to be a little bit trickier. Going down to number 6. Let's think. So these all have different denominators, right? Different denominators, but we can use the same rules. So using our same rules, if we go over here and look, what's 1 unit fraction of thirds? I'm going to go ahead and color that in. I'm going to color that in. I'm going to put, for thirds, a yellow dot so that I remember that these are my thirds. Okay. Now, I'm going to do a different color. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do pink for my halves. I'm going to do 1 unit fraction of my halves. There we go. And then I'm going to take blue for my 8ths. I'm going to do 1 unit fraction of my 8ths. Okay, there we go. So now we know that we have 1 piece from each of these fractions. There's blue, and there's that. Now remember, the numerator tells you the number of pieces, so the number of unit fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at my thirds. Is this one the smallest, the biggest, or in the middle? It's between. So I'm going to write that this one right here is between. Okay, this is between. And then my halves are my largest pieces. Oops. Oops. There we go. Largest. And then my 8ths are the smallest, the least. Okay. So if I think about it, and I have 6 pieces of my thirds, I have 6 pieces of my halves, and 6 of my 8ths. Which one is going to be the biggest? Well, if each piece of my halves is the largest, and I have 6 of them, that's going to be bigger than my thirds or my 8ths. And it's always going to be bigger than my thirds or my 8ths. So I know that that's going to be my greatest fraction. So what are we ordering from in this? We're going from least to greatest. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to already put 6 over 2 here because I know that 6 pieces of 1/2 is going to be larger than the other 2. Okay, so now let's look at our smallest and our between. Our smallest is 1/8. If we have 6 pieces, I can actually write that draw this out completely. So I already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's my 6/8. Now think about it if we have 6 of our thirds. If we have 6 of our thirds, that's going to be 1, 2, 3 here. So it's going to be 2 of these. So which one's going to be bigger? This piece right here or 2 of these? It's going to be our 2 of our thirds. So I'm going to go ahead and write that our between is always going to stay our between when our fractions are, when the denominators are different. So I'm going to write 6 over thirds here, because that's going to be our between. And then that leaves our last one as 6 over 8, oops, is our smallest piece, okay? All right, so there's that. All right, now, let's look at number 7. For number 7, all of our pieces are going to be cut into the same shape. So if they're all going to be cut into the same shape, then that means, get rid of these because we don't need these. How do we need to look at this? If we know that all of them are going to be cut into halves, then all we need to think about is which number on the top, which numerator is the biggest, which is the smallest, and which one is in between. Okay, well, I know that 2 is smaller than 4 or 8. So I'm going to write 2 over 2 here, because that's going to be our smallest, and we're ordering from least to greatest. And I know that 8 is bigger than 2 or 4. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put that in my greatest spot, 8 over 2. Okay, and then I'm going to take my last number and put it in the middle, because that's our in-between, 4 over 2. All right? Perfect. All right, let's look at number 8. Pam is making biscuits. She needs 2/6 cup of oil, 2/3 cup of water, and 2/4 cup of milk. Write the ingredients from greatest to least amount. So let's take a look. Are our numerators the same or denominators? Our numerators are all the same, but our denominators are different. So that means that our oil is going to be cut up into 6 pieces, our water is going to be cut up into 3, and our milk is going to be cut up into 4. So we know that these aren't going to be the same amount of pieces. So I'm going to take my colors here, and I'm going to say that oil is going to be pink. Okay, so I'm going to color it in. 1, 2, 6 of oil. And I'm going to go ahead and say that our water is going to be blue. And there's 2/3 cup of water. And then for our milk, I'm going to make our milk green. And there's 2 cups of milk, or 2 1/4 cups of milk. Okay, so writing our ingredients from greatest to least, that's important for us to pay attention to, greatest to least. Our greatest is our blue, which is our water. So I'm going to write 2/3 is our greatest. Our middle is our milk, which is our green one. 2 over 4 is our middle. And then our smallest amount is our oil. So 2 over 6. Now we could have done this just by looking at our unit fractions. If we were to just look at our unit fractions, that would just be the first piece, right? So if we just look at our first piece here of our unit fractions, so there's 1 piece, 2 piece, here we go. Here's unit fractions for each of these. And we know that this one is greatest, this one's the middle, and this one is going to be our smallest. And it's always going to be that when we keep adding more. Okay, so we could have just done it the same way that we did earlier, just looking at our unit fractions, or if it just helps you for now to look at the fraction strips, that's fine too. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next page. I'm going to go ahead and erase all of my stuff here so that I can bring it up. Move this one to the side. Let's look at our next page. Okay. So in 15 minutes, Greg's sailboat went 3.6 mile. Gina's sailboat went 6.6 mile, and Stuart's sailboat went 4.6 miles. Whose sailboat went the longest distance? Now, remembering that I can look at my denominators here and see that they're all the same. Our numerators are different, but all of our denominators are the same. So that means that everyone has all of the pieces for everyone is going to be cut into the same amount. So that's good to know, because that means that we can just look at our sixes on our fraction strip and see, who went farthest? So I'm going to say that Greg's right here, he's pink. And I'm going to go over, and he went 3.6 miles. So I'm going to draw a line. So starting from here, he went 1, 2, 3. He went 3.6 mile. Now what about Gina's? Gina's going to be blue, and she went 6.6 miles. So I'm going to start here, and I know that that means it's going to be all the way to the end. She went 6 out of 6, so that's 1 whole. And then Stuart went, he's going to be purple. Stuart went 4.6, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I could have just looked at the numerator and seen that there's a 3 here, a 6 here, and a 4 here. And if I know that when the denominators are the same, I can just look at the top number, that numerator. I know that Gina's went the farthest because 6 is bigger than 3 or 4. I'm going to write Gina's sailboat went the farthest. Okay, whose sailboat went the shortest distance? I can also just look at the top and see that 3 is smaller than 4 or 6, or I can look over at my fraction strips if that helps me. So whose went the shortest distance? Who was pink? Greg was pink, so Greg's sailboat. Okay. All right, let's looking back at problem 9, write a similar problem by changing the fraction of a mile each sailboat traveled. So the answers are different from problem 9. So we get to make up our own problem here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase what I did earlier. So let's say that we're going to use, which number should we use? I'm going to use 5. So I'm going to say that everybody's mile is going to be cut up into 5 pieces. Okay, and I'm going to say that in 10 minutes, and I'm going to say Mrs. Starnicky's sailboat went 4/5 of a mile. Mrs. Frobo's went 3/5 of a mile. And who should be my last person? How about we do Miss Basurdo? And Miss Basurdo's sailboat went 1/5 of a mile. Okay, whose sailboat went the longest? Okay, so here's our problem. In 10 minutes, Miss Starnicky's sailboat went 4/5 of a mile, Miss Frobos's went 3/5, and Miss Basurdo's went 1/5. So let's say that Miss Starnicky's favorite is green, so we're gonna do green. Miss Starnicky went 4/5, so I'm gonna color that in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Miss Frobos, her favorite color is purple, so she's gonna be purple, and she went 3/5. So I'm gonna count out 3. 1, 2, 3. And Miss Basurdo, let's say that her favorite color is yellow. She goes 1/5. So who went the longest? Remember that we could just look at either the top number because all of our denominators are the same, or we can color it in on our fraction strips if that helps us. So looking at it, we see that green went the farthest, so that is Miss Starnicky's sailboat went the longest. Okay, wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and look at our next problem, number 11. So Tom has 3 pieces of wood. The length of the longest piece is 3/4 foot. The length of the shortest piece is 3/8 foot. What might be the length of the third piece? So we need to think about this. They just gave us these fractions, but we need to figure out which one would be in the middle, right? If the longest piece is gonna be 3/4 and our shortest is gonna be 3/8, then we need to figure out that middle fraction. So I'm gonna, just so that I understand fully what's going on, I'm actually gonna try and write this out with a pen, which is gonna be a little tricky, but let's see if I can do it. So we already know that the longest piece is 3/4, okay? That's gonna be our longest piece. We still need to figure out what our between piece is. And then our shortest piece is 3/8. Okay? So we need to figure out which piece how long could that third piece be? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna look at my fraction strips. That helps me. Now, all of our denominators are different. So that means that we need to figure out a number that's gonna be in between these two. But we need to remember that these pieces are gonna be, our 3/8 pieces are gonna be a lot smaller than our 3/4 pieces. So I'm gonna take my pen and I'm gonna color in 3/8. That's our shortest piece, okay? There's our shortest piece, and our longest piece is gonna be 3/4. Here we go. So what piece can our next one be? Now if we kind of look at this, it might be a little bit easy just to kind of look at our different fraction numbers here and see, oh, I know that 5ths and 6ths are in between 4 and 8. So I could write that, let's see, what if we did 3/5? Is that in between? That looks like it's in between, right? What if I were to do something like 4/6? Let's try that one. Is that in between? Hey, that's in between too, right? So either one of those numbers could work. As long as you don't go farther than our longest piece or make it shorter than our shortest piece, then you could be fine with any of those numbers. So I'm gonna do the one with 3 just because it keeps it consistent. So I'm gonna do 3/5. And that's gonna be my fraction, my length of the piece of wood that is in between those two numbers, okay? All right, so looking at our last problem on this page, Jesse ran 2/4 mile or 2/4 mile on Monday, 2/3 mile on Tuesday, and 2/8 mile on Wednesday. Let's order these fractions from least to greatest. And I'm gonna try and do this without looking at my fraction strips first. Let's see if I can figure it out. So if we have 2 out of 4, 2 out of 3, and 2 out of 8, all of the numerators are the same. So that means that there's 2 pieces for each one, but all the denominators are different. So that means that my 8s are gonna be smaller pieces than my 3rds or my 4ths. And I think that because 3, it's only cut into 3rds, and these are gonna be my largest pieces. So I think the way that this is gonna go is the smallest pieces, since 8s are cut up into a lot smaller pieces, I think that's gonna be my smallest. So I'm gonna go ahead and write 2/8 here in my least bit. And I think because when it's cut into 3rds, that's a lot bigger than cut into 4ths or 8ths. So I'm gonna write 2/3 as my largest. So then that means that my 2/4 is gonna be in the middle. But I'm still gonna use my fraction strips just to make sure that I got this correct. Okay, so I'm going to bring my fraction strips down here. Okay, so Jackin, you can hear my cat. If you can hear my cat, he's meowing. All right, so I'm going to take my different colors. And since this one kind of looks like the same color here, 2 for 2/4, I'm going to color in 2/4, 1, 2. And then for my thirds, it's already in blue. So I'm going to do my 2/3. And then for my 8s, that one's in purple, my favorite. So I'm going to color in 2/8. So 1, 2. So let's see. I said that 2/8 was going to be my shortest. Am I correct? Yeah, I am, because these pieces are a lot smaller than these ones. I said that my 2/4 was going to be in the middle. I'm also correct there. And also that my 2 pieces of my 2/3 is my largest. Jackin, come here. Okay, so that's how we do these different numbers. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 9.5. Okay, your homework, I'll do another YouTube video of that for you so that you can see all the answers for those. And if we need to, then we can go over some of them in our Google Meet class. Okay, I'll do the next chapter and upload those for you.